Hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO. The Verge published an article. Entitled "People Who Ruined the Internet." And unsurprisingly, it's not Google that ruined the internet. It's not Microsoft that ruined the internet. It's not Amazon that ruined the internet with their unethical practices, Google's unethical practices, and all these companies that engage in anti-competitive practices. People who will just shut down your Google Maps, your Google My Business listing. People will just shut down your Google Ads account. People will just shut down your YouTube account for no reason. None of those businesses have ruined the internet, really, and not even the dark web has ruined the internet with people selling guns, drugs, and whatever else you want to buy. But instead, it's SEOs that have ruined the internet, according to The Verge. And I'll dive a little bit into this article, but I'll leave a link to the article in the comments below, and you can read the whole article. For the most part, the article is just nonsensical rambling, and you can just skip through it. But there are a few gems in there. Some things I would agree with, some things I would not agree with. Now, even though they say that SEOs have ruined the internet, they don't really go into explaining how we ruined the internet, apart from just trying to rank websites for a living or to make money. And it's something that most, or just about anyone, would do. When computers first came out, people made money working on computers. Someone would compose banners. Some people would type stuff on computers. Some people would write books on computers. Some people would write ebooks. Some people would publish e-zines, if you're old enough to remember e-zines. So anyways, I'll just dive into this article, and it's interesting to see from a third-person perspective, from people who are not within the industry, what they think about the industry. Okay, so the article starts with the people who ruined the internet. As the public begins to believe Google isn't as useful anymore, what happens to the cottage industry of search engine optimization experts who struck content oil and smeared it all over the web? Well, they find a new way to get rich and keep the party going. So right here, it is not Google's fault for not being able to do its job, which is being a search engine, helping people find information, something that it was established in the first place to do. So apparently, if Google can't do its job, it's because SEOs don't allow it to do its job. When a person tries to advertise their website using Google Ads will just shut them down. And so they have no other option other than to try and do SEO. And that's where they go to try to find an SEO to help them optimize the e-commerce store, their service business. And right there, we're doing that to ruin the internet, in the words of The Verge. And they're going to explain it a little bit, and we'll start with here is, we'll not read all the fluff and we'll get to the point. This is it. After all, a lot of folks are unhappy in 2023 with their ability to find information on the internet, which for almost everyone means the quality of Google search results. The links that pop up when they go looking for answers online, they say absolutely unusable. Garbage, a nightmare, because a lot of the content doesn't feel authentic. Some blame Google itself, asserting that all seeing trillion-dollar corporations with a 90% market share for online search is corrupt our access to the truth. Because others blame the people I wanted to see in Florida, the ones who engage in the mysterious art of search engine optimization, or SEO. So right up there, they're now saying that we don't really know what to expect, but we jumped right in. We went to Florida, and trust me, Florida is not the hub for SEOs. If you want to go to the hub for SEOs, you probably want to go to Chiang Mai in Thailand, because that's where all the SEOs really go. At least the ones who, just want to make more money, and they don't want to pay as much in taxes, and they want to hire cheap labor, so they kind of go to Chiang Mai. Anyway, so doing SEO is less straightforward than buying the advertising space label sponsored above organic search results. Is more like a wizard of Oz project, his voice to magnify his authority. Well, yeah, because Google has also made Google Ads very convoluted. And if you go through Google's, there's a lawsuit against Google. If you go through the lawsuit, it says that Google also charge you exorbitantly more without any notice. And so one day you're paying $100, the other day you're paying $5,000, and with no explanation, with absolutely no explanation, which means that you don't know what to expect. Google can also shut down your Google Ads account all of a sudden, like it has done for some of my clients, and now they solely rely on doing SEO to rank and to get traffic. And so if you're trying to do that, if you're trying to do business, you're trying to run your business online, you have to be on the top of Google, because if you're not doing that, then you're not going to get any traffic, because most people Google to find you unless you're a big brand. So obviously, the goal is to tell the algorithm whether it needs to appear for a site to appear as high up as possible in search ranking. Google's supposed objectivity to lure people in and then usually show them some kind of advertising. Voila, Google, a business model. Over time, SEO techniques have spread and become more insidious, such that Googling anything can now feel like looking up sneakers in a dictionary and finding a definition that sounds both incorrect and suspiciously as thorough. It was written by someone promoting Nike footwear that allows you to just do it. Perhaps this is why nearly everyone hates SEO, and the people who do it for a living, the practice seems to be successfully destroying the illusion that the internet was ever about anything other than selling stuff. Well, why don't you ask Amazon about that, Alibaba about that, Google itself about that? Why did Google start with a search engine and then started selling ads that would be above organic search results if the organic results matter? So someone could have a crap website and then just advertise a crap website, and it will be above all the great search results. It'll be labeled sponsored, but we'll get most of the traffic. And then one day what Google will do is they'll just turn off the advertising, shut down the account, and with no explanation, you'll just lose all of that. And so how are we ruining the internet if we're playing by Google's own playbook? So you can't rank a site without understanding Google's own algorithm. And so if you don't understand Google's own algorithm, which is their playbook, then you can't rank. So how are we ruining the internet? Why don't they just come up with a transparent playbook that says, this is what you need to do to rank your website. This is how the algorithm works. And if you have a genuinely great website, you will rank. It's not really hard to do. You could do it with $1 trillion company, which its core competency is search, and they can do search. It means that the company is incompetent. And so, I think the whole search thing that Google does is really a house of cards, and it's just being in the right place at the right time, positioning itself correctly in the beginning. That has helped Google search as a whole. And now, even though there are other search engines like DuckDuckGo and Bing that has improved greatly, and Yandex and all the other search engines, people still by default use Google because they have a monopoly. They have a monopoly because it's the default search engine for many operating systems as well, for many browsers, for Google's own browsers too. And so it's very hard to get out of the Google ecosystem. And now with their phones, it's even hard. Someone was telling me it's even hard to install another browser on a Pixel phone that then has that defaults to another search engine. So right there itself, Google is holding on to its market share, and I wouldn't blame it. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. All businesses should do that because that's how they make money. But if you're calling SEOs bad, then how bad is this? So it says. So someone says here, so who ends up with a career in SEO? The stereotype is that of a hustler, a content goblin willing to ensure rules, morals, and good taste in exchange for eyeballs and mountains of cash. A nihilist, in it for the thrills, a prankster gleeful about getting away with something. No, not really. This is a modern day pirate shit, as close as you can get to it, explains Kid Lee, who prepared me over the phone for what to expect in Florida based on over a decade of working in SEO. So he spoke to an SEO. And I've never heard who this Kid Lee guy is, so it's definitely not someone who's big in the industry. So what Lee said he noticed most at SEO conferences and SEO networking events is certain arrogance. There's definitely an ego among all of them. He told me, "You succeed now and you're a genius. You've outdone Google." Yeah, this is something I can agree with, is that a lot of them have quite a bit of a arrogant attitude. And, even the ones who have not established any results will have an arrogant attitude. And now it's all about how popular you are in the industry, and it's not how well you have done SEO over the years or how much experience you have. So you have really low quality SEOs who can't go beyond just the simple tips and tricks, who have marketed themselves really well, who then hire cheap SEOs overseas to then work for them and do low quality work. And nowadays the low quality work is just churning out a lot of cheap low quality content at $1.50. It's all AI. It's all really badly done, by the way. And I keep telling people that you're just one update away from being nailed by Google. But for SEOs, they get paid monthly, so they've gotten their money. They've gotten paid anyway. So if they've held on to the account for a year and they've made $5,000 a month off that account, then that's a good $60,000 a year. Multiply that across 10 accounts and they've made a lot of money. And so it's certainly not a cottage industry. It's a $1 billion industry at least. As it goes on to say that, the more I thought about search engine optimization and how a bunch of mathematical jerks were degrading our search sense of reality because they wanted to buy Lamborghinis and prove that they could vanquish the almighty algorithm, but technically constitutes too many algorithms, but we think as a single force. The more I look forward to going to Florida for this alligator party, maybe I thought I would get to see more. I would get to see someone who made millions clogging the internet with bullshit get the ultimate competence. Maybe an SEO professional could get attacked by a gigantic prehistoric-looking reptile right there in front of me. Well, it's just more gobbledygook. So I'll just skip to the other great part of this. Okay, now this is interesting. The situation sounded familiar, but he was funny and smart and keen to observe our SEO. And he said, entering a very weird time technologically with AI and optimization standpoint. He told me anyone who thought the internet was already saturated with SEO-oriented content should buckle up. All the A's are out there paying link building companies to build links. He said now they can go use the free version of ChatGPT. Soon, he said, Google results would be worse, dominating entirely by AI-generated crap, designed to please the algorithms, produce and establish at volumes far beyond anything humans could create, far beyond anything we'd ever seen before. They're going to be able to stop the onslaught of it. He said, then he laughed and laughed. And, if this is something that I agree with, that, with the AI-generated content thing, they are a website that are literally publishing 100 pages a day automatically of auto-generated content. And they have their own custom plugin that pulls in content from ChatGPT and publishes it based on a set of keywords. And they have an old list. I'm not going to go into that because I obviously have a confidentiality agreement with them, but it literally has a list of 80,000, 90,000 keywords, and it automatically writes those articles for those keywords and publishes those articles to a WordPress blog and interlinks them automatically. So they're literally making hundreds of pages of interlinked websites, and they're ranking very well. And with the recent helpful content update, the rankings have actually improved, which means that, I have been proven wrong because I was always thought that Google would be against something like that. But the algorithm seems to be favoring companies that are doing it. And so doing it at scale would mean that you're doing it for 15, 20, 30, 40 websites at a time. And you could literally be raking in millions of dollars a month if you're getting a good number of traffic. And so, yeah, so this is certainly going to clog up the internet, because a lot of the websites that are not doing it will have a problem getting indexed in the first place and getting the pages crawled. And it's a whole, because obviously there are billions of websites on the internet, and Google isn't going to crawl or index every website out there. So it's certainly an uphill task. This guy that worked for that was the owner for Mapstead. Now, if you guys are old enough to know, Mapstead also owned many websites, sold many websites. This was one of the legends from the past. And what he says is, before a current movement of widespread disillusionment with online information, the rise of SEO has reached a breaking point multiple times. That I agree with. In 2003, as Google approached the deadline to disclose pertinent business information leading up to its IPO, the company quietly released an update cracking down. By 2011, SEO was once again oppressively pervasive. TechCrunch published a story called "Why We Desperately Need a New and Better Google," which argued that Google has become a jungle, a tropical paradise for spammers and marketers. In the next year, Google made two major changes to the algorithm, which came to be called Panda and Penguin. Yeah, and Penguin nailed websites that were doing malicious link building, that were buying thousands of backlinks, and they hit many websites very hard, even some of the websites that I was working on, because the main focus back then was getting backlinks, and regardless of not if they were relevant. And so we would do forum links, we would do commenting links, we would do a whole bunch of other types of links. But yeah, Google cracked down on it, and that improved the search results a great deal. And I remember that there were websites that had very few to no backlinks that were linking, that were ranking on top. So yeah, they did do a good job of cleaning that up. And as an SEO, I appreciate Google for doing that, because it meant that my own personal website that had zero backlinks kind of went from being nowhere to the second page. So that's kind of good. But don't worry on Mapstead. Okay, so this guy, yeah, and so here, as I spoke to more SEO professionals around the country, I began to think that the reason I found them endearing and not evil was that while many had made quite a bit of money, most had amassed significant power. Unlike Elon Musk's and the big Jeff Bezos of the world, who went from geeky teenagers to masters of the universe, the dogs who grew up to do SEO have stayed the butt of the joke, beholden to fluctuations of the algorithm, frantically pulling levers behind the scenes, ultimately somewhat hapless. I mean, I have never mentioned that they call themselves SEOs. Really, they say things like, SEO, my job is to get more traffic. This title feels thirsty to be more similar to an SEO, to be more taken seriously as compared to the rest of the tech world. SEO has always lacked a certain glamour of certain messiah complex. Case in point, while many tech SEOs claiming to save the world these days live in Miami, the alligator party was an hour up the coast. Well, they don't live in Miami, trust me. Most SEOs don't live in Miami, as I said earlier, and this whole statement here is more of a joke than anything else, because I know CEOs that hire SEOs to make sure that the company's website is getting in traffic, because without traffic, they would not make any money. And the great SEOs, they don't really need to make a lot of money, because they have projects coming in left, right, and center, and they have a lot of their own websites that make money, so they don't really do any outreach. They don't reach out to clients, they don't go and meet clients, they don't call clients. It's just, they don't just do it. A lot of companies out there selling their services as SEO gurus don't know what they're doing. They don't really give a damn. He explained. As a consultant, he's often had a business ask him to vet the work of other SEOs. I would take a look at their site and determine the firm had done next to nothing and had been charging thousands a month for a year on end. When I ran this 80% scam figure, my SEOs most agreed it sounded accurate, though people were divided about what to ascribe to greed and what is just stupidity. It isn't because they have scammers' heart, said Bruce Clay. It's because they don't have a realistic expertise. Clay is a vinculator man with a
mustache with is often credited with coining the phrase search engine optimization and therefore called the father of SEO. He told me his agency never hired an SEO with less than a decade of experience. Yeah, I agree. Most SEOs have they don't do any SEO. 80%, I would say more like 90% have no SEO experience. They don't know SEO. They don't know how SEO works. And the work they do is kind of fishy. And that's it. That gives our industry a bad name. I wouldn't disagree with that. Anyway, so this is probably the best. These are the best parts of the article. So as you can see, this is a pretty long article. So I'll just not go through the whole thing. But yeah, just read this part about Matt Cutts over here. He says, after Cutts left, Google replaced him with a handful of people, none of whom could quite fill his shoes. Those personalities sometimes were standoffish. First, told me some of them were superior, some of them were too wallflowery. Yeah, I would agree. One of the people Google brought in was Danny Sullivan, a former journalist who started Search Engine Land, the industry publication where Schwartz works. Back in 1990, in 2009, Sullivan was described as the closest approximation to an empire in search world. So when he published a deep look at Google's biggest ever search quality crisis in 2017 and took a look at Google and Google Search Liaison for search only a few months later, it felt to some SEOs as though a congressperson works on the gun safety legislation to quite. Yeah, so good. Danny Sullivan is one of the good guys, and he is, I would think, a good replacement for Cutts. But Cutts was he was good, and he was good. He would provide information, but it would be a lot of misinformation too. So it would be half baked. So I wouldn't say that I miss Matt Cutts, but yeah, he certainly did a pretty good job. And then they go on to discuss the impact of EAT, which if you read the article, it's absolutely crap. A whole lot of this is just it's fluff and rambling. So I'm not gonna bore you with all of this fluff, but the TLDR is that the Google most people that do SEO are scammers, and they have ruined the internet. The ones that really do SEO have ruined the internet, which is like 10%, and you shouldn't do SEO. So take it for what it is. And I just think that this is a very biased article, an article I don't entirely agree with, and the way they have characterized or the way they have framed SEOs is not universally correct.
So I hope you liked the video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about what the Verge is saying and whether or not the Verge is right in saying that it is SEOs like us who have broken the internet, or have broken Google more precisely, and whether or not SEO is dead as they imply because Google improves, or will AI just take over Google search and people just use AI? Well, I don't think that's going to be the case. And if you look at the statistics, there's not many people asking Bard or OpenAI any questions that they would normally search for. They're usually used for writing term papers and articles and stuff like that. So they're not really relied on for research. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.